everyone. As you can probably see by the title, this video is about how I go through medical school without being a nerd. And I get presented a lot of these videos on YouTube about day in the life of a med student, and there's a few different themes, and they all really annoy me. So one of the themes is, I'm a Zen master. I meditate every day, and I decorate my room very nicely, and I think happy thoughts. Usually girls doing those ones. And then there's the, oh my god, it's so stressful. Like drinking energy drinks, oh, it's miserable. I'm crying, it's so hard. And then there's like the, just bringing you through like, oh yeah, we're doing really advanced stuff. See, now we're learning how to do this and this. And yeah, if you start out as a monkey, it seems really advanced to you. So I'm going to give you my story, try not to make it too long, too boring. Also, because unless you're pretty young, you cannot imitate my way of life and medical school. So hopefully you are young enough. So I will start where it starts off. Well, first of all, from like the age of 8 or 9 or 10, I don't know, I've always been into the human body. Probably my whole life, I just didn't, put it into physicality until a certain age. Like, a year ago, my mom found this thing it's on my computer, but it's from like grade 6, and it says, what you want to be when you're an adult. And I grew up, and my father always impressed upon me to make lots of money, so I'm talking about money on there a lot, but I also mention how I want to be a doctor, a scientist, and I talk about all the other stuff for money. Interestingly, I've never deviated from those desires. I've always, and I consider doctor and scientist to be the same thing. A true doctor is a scientist, and the true scientist of the human body is naturally a doctor. Because if you know the human body very well, and you know how to manipulate it very well, now all you have to do is actually take action, and you are a doctor. And if you are a good doctor, you should know all that stuff, so really they're one and the same. So how did I start off being able to not be a nerd in medical school? Well, in high school, you could say I was a nerd. I wasn't. I'll let you decide whatever I was. Labels are not very useful. But in high school, I went to school each day, and I slept through all my classes until I started taking Adderall. Because I can't stay awake at school if I don't take Adderall. Belarus, I can't take Adderall, so I sleep through all my classes. So yeah, there you have it. I did actually take something. Yeah, I took Adderall, 15 milligram time release, and then I also would sometimes add in 5 milligrams of Dexedrine. I went through a lot of different doses and protocols and stuff. Yeah, it's not of key importance. That was really important for me because, like I said, without it, I slept through every class. But once I started staying awake, I could actually benefit from my time in class. And I would make the most out of my time, pay a lot of attention, take notes for things I need to take notes on. Don't take notes for things you don't need to take notes on. So there's that. Pay a lot of attention in class because you don't want to just waste your time in class, and now you got to spend more time outside of class. So I maximized my time in class, and then after class, I had wrestling practice. That ranged from like an hour to 3.5 hours or 3 hours, I don't remember. Sometimes we had short practice, sometimes we had long practice. It took a considerable amount of time, and there's that. And then on top of that, 3 to 4 days a week, without interruption, I went to the gym for 1 to 2 hours. So already I'm doing a lot of stuff. No reason to elaborate. So I was doing school, wrestling, and working out. So I'm a pretty busy person, but I still made sure that every day when I got home, I only took like a 15-minute break. I think I ate a little something, generally ice cream. I love ice cream, and I loved it more when I was younger. Hopefully I don't end up diabetic someday. So I would generally eat ice cream, a lot of ice cream, and I would get straight to doing my homework and studying. And the key with homework and studying is don't just jack off and waste your time. Make sure, like for example, if you have a math class, go through all the problems without looking at the answers, and then look at the answers, see if you did them right or wrong. If you did it wrong, go through it again, like ignore the answer, go through it again, or look at the answer, but you got to figure out what you did wrong. And then you got to be able to do it again on a different problem that's the same, like same style, but you got to do it without making that mistake. Long story short, you have to know how to do everything. You have to understand everything. If there's one thing you don't know how to do or don't understand, or you make a mistake on, you need to repeat until you don't make a mistake. A lot of people have this weird mindset of like, oh, yeah, I understand most of it. It's like, that's not good enough. You either, of course it's better than nothing, but you want to work through everything until you do not make any mistakes. And that's how you know when it comes time for a test that you're going to actually do good on it. If you have reading material, so I actually was very OCD in my studying, plus it, had to work hard on top of being in school for a lot of the day, going to wrestling, being in the gym. So I came up with a lot of different tactics. One of them was that I would read, take notes, then I would read my notes to my computer and listen to them. And I would even layer a bunch of different notes on top of each other and speed it up so the duration was shorter, and it would sound like nonsense. Maybe it helped, maybe it didn't, but I would listen to that stuff. My mom did not like hearing that because it sounded very weird to have like 5 different sets of notes all sped up and on top of each other. But I was very into the human mind when I was younger, and I studied, maybe it'll sound funny, but I studied hypnosis for years when I was like 10 to 13 years old. So at the time, I believed everything I hear is in my brain. It's true. So I would actually do that. I would also listen to single ones, of course. But that was to maximize my time. So I'm going to wrap up this chapter of it now, because it's already getting long. Bottom line is, in high school, I went hard. I learned everything, and I learned everything pretty much perfect. Yeah, I did very good in high school, and it's very important, not just because it's high school, because that's your foundation. That's your foundation for your mathematical understanding. That's your foundation for your chemistry understanding. That's your foundation for your biology understanding. Oh, and I almost forgot. Every single morning when I would wake up, I would read medical studies or scientific studies or anecdotal reports that people would write about using drugs to learn about the human body. Every day when I got home, I would do the same. So I said that I would immediately eat ice cream and do my homework, but actually I got home, read the medical stuff, then ate the ice cream, then did the homework. So I built a very good foundation of reading, who knows, like let's say a minimum 1 hour a day of reading medical stuff on top of learning the basic sciences and math very well. And I did that for 3.5 years. So because of that, it makes everything in the future a lot easier. And really, I feel like this video is too long. Maybe I'll separate it into 2 parts. But then I went to university, and I was mentally fixated on chemistry degree. Even though I read medical stuff for hours, many days, and at least 1 hour like every day. Of course, I'm sure there was a day here and there when I didn't read this stuff, but really, I just loved reading actual happenings, not just textbook, this does that. No, I want to read what actually happens, and I would read chemistry studies, biological studies, and I'd look at their techniques. I'd look at just everything they wrote. I'd be like, interesting. So this, like, I'm not talking about the results part. I'm not talking about the abstract. Everything in between. Interesting. This was able to do this, and like you look at. There's just so much you can learn by reading the whole medical study, the whole chemistry study, the whole biological study, and every word I did not know, I looked up. Because what good is reading a bunch of studies if you don't know what you're reading? Pretty like all the medications, all the drugs, if I didn't know them, I looked them up. So I built a much better medical understanding than most people. Then I went to university. Well, at the end of high school, my life got turned upside down by a bunch of injuries and health issues. University didn't go so smooth because I was at the end of high school, which means, well, it doesn't mean maybe I could have got lucky and it ended soon after, but it didn't. I had a lot of issues. So my time at university was rough, but the last few years, because first couples didn't really work out when you're dying and stuff. But the last few got back able to actually study and improved my knowledge of chemistry and biology. Not of mathematics, sadly. Someday I should go back and improve my calculus because my health took a downturn when I was doing calculus in high school and I just never mastered it. It's not that I can't, it's just that my health took a downturn, did not have the ability at the time when my health is failing to do well in it. University did it again with failing health, didn't have the ability to focus on it, think clearly, and do it well. And then I took it again at university because I didn't pass it the first time because I was too busy dying. But I didn't really focus on it because my mind was elsewhere. So someday I will come back to calculus and master all of it. But I took more chemistry and biology classes, kept reading more medical studies and such, so I brought my knowledge up even higher. So basically, I had a lot of accumulated knowledge. But I think I'm going to have to split this video into two parts. What else should I add? Okay, so I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but you cannot just work that hard like I did in high school. I mean, maybe you can. I think people get mental disorders when they don't take enough breaks. And I think it's also funny that a lot of people have this weird idea that if you take a break after high school, that you're going to just like never go to college, or like you're just going to be a loser for your whole life. Like, how does that work out? Like, you worked really hard in high school. Like, personally, I knew nothing about college, university. All I knew is that if I don't get good grades, I'm not going to get into college or university or whatever. Yeah, I didn't even know that there was such thing as community college, which you don't need good grades for. Like, late in my senior year, I heard about community college. I heard it's really cheap, so actually I planned to go to community college. But my mom encouraged me to write application for University of California, Irvine, for California State University, Long Beach, and I might have also applied to University of California, San Diego. I don't remember. But I know I applied to at least UCI and CSULB. And I got accepted into both. It was very close to CSULB. I walk around there every day because it's so close to my house. But I got a full-ride scholarship to UCI. So I decided to go to UCI. That's cheaper. I knew nothing about either of the universities besides I went to an introduction at CSULB, and they were like telling you that you gotta ask girls to kiss them before you kiss them. Ask them if you can hold their hand, and like if if you're in a line with people and a guy starts flirting with a girl and she wants to go home with him, that you should like grab her arm and tell him, no you don't, you can't go with her. Pretty crazy. Little did I know UCI was actually probably crazier, but I ditched their orientation because they didn't have a good enough system in place to make sure you don't ditch it. I did come back at the very end into an orientation. I'm hearing about this stuff, about this violence, thinking, yeah, that sounds reasonable. If someone's really violent, like, I don't remember what they're talking about, but then they go, and now for the physical violence. And what were you just talking about? I thought you were talking about if someone's like beating someone to death or raping them. You were talking about mean words? Oh. But I got a full ride. That's pretty awesome. Very lucky. I worked hard for it, but of course there is also a matter of luck. But I'm going to cut this video here and talk about my current life in med school, because the bottom line is I built a very strong foundation. However, there is another thing I do, which is optimization of the mind. I do not want to spend my time studying if my mind is not clear, and if I'm not going to remember it, may as well do something else or go to sleep.